Hi, everyone. So, so how this is going to work. I'm going to do this for the next few Wednesdays and see how it goes. And at the end of the day, if it becomes something that works better for people after we get through this might be something we continue. So I want to kind of set up some parameters of how I'd like to do this and then see how people like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a call out when I do the brain hacks, and I'm going to do those on Wednesdays. And then I'm going to also invite a live discussion, I think, after the brain hack. So what will happen is we'll have the brain hack. I will follow that up with a live discussion while we're there having the hack, and then I'm going to let that roll into the group and any questions people might have. Now, what I want to do is invite people to ask questions before, like from the week before. I want to kind of get a rhythm going where any questions you have, I can address. There is a live chat, so right now I'm going to post this little comment that says ask your questions here. And then that way, if you haven't pre-posted a question, you can ask it there. But you can post questions on any of my social media. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those questions up until a certain time. And then once the brain hack starts, I'll take them through the live chat. Now, I know sometimes people have problems with live chats. If that becomes an issue, I will find another option for you. But what I really want to do is set up this system where I can take time to answer your specific questions about the brain that I may not have addressed in the brain hack, or that may get into more detail about what we're doing. So basically, I'm recreating the same thing we've done in groups for years, where people were really interested in staying after the group and asking me questions. Well, this is that chance to do it. And it gets to benefit a lot of people. Now, if you don't want to put your question in the live chat, I understand sometimes these questions about brain issues are very personal. So if you don't want to do that, you can send me messages on other social media. I have an Instagram account, Linda Forrest Muse. I have a Facebook account, also Linda Forrest Muse. There's the private Facebook group, Inspired Evolution Project. I might actually see if I can set something up in the website as well so that everyone can have access to it. Meetup messages, the discussions. I'll try to check all of those before I sign off tonight. I have 3 different questions that people have posed to me this week since I announced that I'm doing the live video. So I'm going to address those questions first. If you have any questions, anything you want to know about the brain, any questions you have from the brain hack, the same as we would do at Clever Bean, I'm here to answer those questions. Just either post them in the chat, or if you want to send them through the social media where you saw that I'd be live tonight, or you can send those, and hopefully I'll catch them before I sign off. If I don't, I will address them next week in the same way. So I will be posting all those shifts of how things are occurring. I was going to wait till the beginning of April, but it seems with the shift in restaurants and what's happening with keeping everyone safe, this might be the best time to make that shift. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that because we won't be gathering in person for a while. So what I want to do is I'm going to start with the questions that I have. And again, there's a live chat here. You can post questions there or on the other media. I'll check that when I'm done. Once I have no more questions, I am just going to go ahead and sign off. So make sure you ask your questions if you have them. There's no question that isn't a good question, even if you need reassurance or need a reminder. That's what I'm here to do. So the first question I had from somebody is they are having a situation that is the result of their brain function that is related to action in a relationship. It's relating to a situation they're in. And just because I don't want to get too deep into what they're doing, I'm going to give you an example. They are having a situation that has to do with a relationship and somebody that is creating conflict in their life. So imagine you had somebody at work that was really like, it felt like they were just making your life a nightmare, and they were making it really difficult. They were sabotaging you, or they were making other relationships at work difficult. So the question that this person had was, do I need to address that issue? Do I need to actually talk to the person, or do I need to go handle the situation with that person? And the answer is no. So I had an interesting circumstance, and I thought about this in response to a personal experience. I had a situation where somebody was not being nice. They were attempting to sabotage me, talking about me, turning other people against me and what I do. And I had somebody say to me, and I was at peace. Things happened that resolved the situation, but I was at peace. And people say, well, don't you need to tell them so they know what they did is wrong? Don't you need to educate them that they're hurting people so they don't do this again? And what I have learned about the brain is that all the circumstances, if I feel attacked or if somebody actually is trying to sabotage me, talking to people about what they're doing is a thing that doesn't work more than it does. People might not be realizing they're doing something. They might feel attacked, or if they're sabotaging me, maybe they don't care. But what I found is that as I shifted my brain function, my perspective shifted. So as I looked at this question that this person had, I'll say the thing I always say: we don't need to address the issue. In the same way that if you had trauma from your childhood, you don't need to go relive that trauma in order to get past that trauma. A lot of people that relive it just feel re-traumatized. I've had several people that I've worked with that said that they work with me and they choose to work with me instead of going to traditional therapy, because I tell them, you don't have to talk about any of it. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't need to. We'll make progress in a different way. And part of that progress is in connecting with ourself in the process. So this is what I put out to the person who asked the question is, oftentimes, if I'm feeling attacked or if I'm feeling like a situation is unfair, what I'm really doing is defining my role in the situation by believing that anyone can attack me or sabotage me. And it's true experience. It's a real experience. It's not that it's not happening. But if I shift my brain function to a more advanced brain function, this is the same thing as that car analogy I've been using in the brain hack. If my driver of my car is an innovator, I'm going to find ways around it. I'm going to find ways to resolve it that have nothing to do with talking to that person. This is that concept that what other people think of us is none of our business. The reason why it's none of our business is they're in their own perception of their reality. And if they're sabotaging me, their amygdala is probably triggered. And they aren't really going to hear me in a good way. All I need to do is connect with the part of my brain that's more innovative, and that driver will drive my car in the right direction. And the problem is we've lost faith in ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. We don't believe that we have that in us, because if we felt like we could easily navigate the situation, it wouldn't feel like sabotage. So I think this is really phase 3 practice related, where I need to start connecting with that part of my brain that is innovative. Because another thing that happens, and I want you to remember these words, when we're doing the phase 3 practice and strengthening that striatum, strengthening that communication between the left and right hemisphere of the brain, when we're in that practice, what we feel is capable and confident. We lose any feeling of being able to be victimized, of being able to be taken advantage of being able to be in a position where anyone else has any authority at all, because we feel confident and in authority of our own life. So this is a phase 3 thing, and I'm going to say the same thing all the time. Return to the practice. Return to the practice. You do not need to address the situation, and whether that's a situation from your childhood and trauma, whether it's thinking of confronting somebody, whether it's a current relationship you have that is difficult, you do not need to address the situation. Address the brain function and the situation will change. People in high brain function, just everything goes your way because you know exactly where to be, when to be there, and how to be there. And this changes everything. So I hope that answers your question. If there are follow-up questions, please send them to me. You can, if you're online now joining us for the live meetup, you can post it in the online chat, or if you want to send me another message individually through any of those social media outlets, I will address any clarifications. So that is my initial response to that. So I'm going to move on to the second question I have, which is, do I need to return to phase 2 for what I'm experiencing right now? So this was a question that directly related to coronavirus, and it kind of relates to the next question too, but I'm going to address that one separately. So a lot of times people think, okay, I feel really triggered, and so maybe I should return to my phase 1 or phase 2 practices. Say I'm going through the end of a relationship, or someone in my life has passed, or I lost my job, or, when we hit significant roadblocks in life, when we feel like we've been hit with that 2x4, oftentimes people will ask, do I need to return to those earlier practices, or can I, or how do I handle this? So my answer is this: whatever practice is easiest to engage in, that is the highest of the phases, is the practice we want to use. So if you're a person that's adept at phase 3 and you can go into phase 3 while you're triggered, you don't need to return. So what I always tell people is, start with the highest phase you can. And if you struggle with it, if you struggle with that practice, drop back one phase. So this person is doing phase 3 and a little bit of phase 4 work. And so they were asking, because they're so triggered about coronavirus, if they need to go back to 2. And the answer is no. If you can do phase 3 or even phase 4, do that. What you want to do is keep strengthening that brain. You want to keep strengthening the striatum and shrinking that amygdala. You want to continue that practice. So again, our decisions should not be situational. We're not responding based off the situation. We're responding based off where we want our brain to be. What driver do we want driving that car? So if I'm thinking, should I just go back and do a lesser practice? Well, that might make that rule follower the one driving the car. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the car, it's in the Brain Hack. So it's on YouTube. It's Brain Hack 13, where I'm talking about the way consciousness works. But it's really important to connect with the idea that, where do I want to be? I want my brain to be strong. And what I really want to work towards is the place that eventually says, nothing sways me. This morning, when the earthquake hit, I just found it fascinating. I had no fear. It startled me. I kind of felt the rumble, and I thought, is that an earthquake? Do I feel movement? And then that hard bang hit and it shook. And I went, wow. And my dogs were scared. And so I took care of my dogs, but there was this kind of swaying motion afterwards where it felt like I was on a boat. And I found it fascinating. I didn't have fear. I thought about the things that might break in my house, and I thought about the people out there. It didn't seem like a big enough earthquake to have caused a lot of damage, but I felt very calm and centered. And I felt same way through the whole coronavirus. And I felt the same way through my daughter's, when my daughter was going through suicidal ideation. It's not that I don't care. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a deeply compassionate, deeply caring person. And I used to be very empathic. I used to freak out about everything. I was Chicken Little. I would overreact. I was defensive. I was always expecting the worst. And so I was always overreacting. I was commonly told, you're too sensitive, you're too sensitive. And you take things too personally. But now it's not that. I've done all this work on myself to become better. I just changed my brain. And now I'm a person who doesn't react. It takes quite a bit to trigger me. So this is what I'm talking about. So use the practice that challenges your brain. This is my answer. Don't go back to phase 2 because it's comfortable. Use the practice that is going to continue to push the growth of your brain, regardless of what's happening in your life. I put out a question a lot during this time of year that said, how serious are you about this? How serious are you about improving your brain? How bad do you want it? All you need is 20 minutes a day and you can have it. It's just really deciding at what point it's worth it to you to do that. And to make sure that when you're doing it, you're not making it easy. You're not just making it another coping mechanism, that you're actually saying, no, for 20 minutes, I am going to do something that I really need to think hard about, that I really need to concentrate, that I really need to focus. I'm going to do that for 20 minutes and I'm going to give it my full attention. That's all you need to do, because that's going to strengthen and strengthen and strengthen the brain. So that is always the answer. It's not about the phase number. It's about doing the thing that challenges you. I just created phase numbers to make it easy to translate to people who don't know about what I do. So don't get locked into phases. Decide instead, I'm going to challenge my brain. I'm going to make sure I challenge my brain every chance I get. So the third question I had, again, related to coronavirus, but this one was one I had today, and it was about the earthquake as well. And the question was, but what if something bad really does happen? Like, what if the worst thing happens? Because I talk a lot about things going your way, the more your brain's lined up. And it's not that the world becomes the kind of magical place that just always cooperates with you. Things go your way because you're innovative in your response to them. So if the answer to that question, what if something bad happens, is really, this is why we need to do the practices. Because when something does happen, when the earthquake happens, when the coronavirus happens, when people in our life are suffering, when we get sick and we need to heal quickly, when any of these things that happen, we want to be ahead of the curve on that. That's why I always say, do not do your practices just to so the practices, using them as a drug, using them as a coping mechanism, is probably the thing I would say that is almost more damaging than actually doing no practices, because we don't see the results, and so we don't build the faith. And so then the practice just becomes another coping mechanism instead of that one thing that finally works. Again, this is 100% based off your brain, and it's 100% based off physiology. It's it's clockwork and it's precision if we apply it properly. The thing we just need to do is apply it properly. That's why I do these meetups, is so that I can continue to clarify so we can properly apply it. And then the results are inevitable. You don't have to finally break through that thing. That thing that's your wall, so I talk about it all the time, that this method works for 100% of the people that apply it properly. Now, I clarify that because of two things. One is people say you should be careful using the term 100%, but what I'm providing here is information, not instruction. So I'm just explaining your brain so that you can recognize the results. I'm not talking about something that is a variable. I'm talking about the human body. Now, there are situations, extreme situations, where people may not be able to do that, but people that can and do apply it properly, all of those people have success. And I always say only 70% of people will do that. 70% of people introduced to this program will hit a wall where life is good enough, life is better enough that they just don't want to do anymore, or they're finally supposed to step into this new identity or this new possibility and they're not brave enough or don't feel strong enough or doubt they're worthy or whatever internal dialogue is there. This is when we run into that. That's an amygdala wall. That wall comes from the amygdala, where it's saying you can't shrink me or you'll die. And we're saying, okay, and walking away from possibility. So it's really important to make sure we apply the practice in the right way to get the result. Because if we don't, then we'll lose faith in the practice when really all we needed was a minor tweak to that practice. Ultimately, our goal is challenging the brain, but then we want to go deeper, right? When we get more into phase 3 and 4, we want to connect again to the brilliance of who we are. I mean, we're talking about loving ourselves, being enamored by who we are and believing that we have something real and powerful to offer to this world. And so it becomes important to decide if we're willing to prioritize that. It becomes important to decide, is it more important these other things I have in my life? I vest myself in work or in hobbies or in things that make me happy. But this is my health. This is my longevity. This is my well-being. And this is my personal experience of life. And being in a car that's not driven by Chicken Little, but being in a car that's driven by the innovator, being in a life experience that's joyful. This, at some point, needs to become our priority, I think. And so that when something bad does happen, it's easy to navigate. I talk about this all the time in meditation. I use the term, meditation is not about sitting in stillness or is not about moments of stillness in a life of chaos. Meditation is designed to be a life of stillness and easily managing chaos. But meditative states are not just sitting quietly. They're about working and improving the brain so that we can expand consciousness. So, when it comes to that question, what if something bad happens? You know what? If you're in the right brain function when it does, you will easily navigate it. If you're not, do the practices so you can be in the best brain function possible to navigate it. Okay, so I think that answers those 3 questions. If there are follow-up questions, again, you can post them. You can post them in the live chat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second and check the social media. I'm going to check my email, and I'm not seeing any requests there. If you want to send future requests via email, because that's easily accessible to everyone, my email address is Linda, Linda, at theselfcaresanctuary.com. So it is THE, self, not south, SELF, care, CARE, sanctuary, SANCTUARY inspiredevolution.com. I will be creating an Inspired Evolution Project email address soon. I'm actually working on that with my web developer, so that'll be easier to remember, and you'll have a link on my website. There is a link to connecting with me. If you go to the About Us page, to the bottom of the page, there's contact information there where you can contact any of my social media. So I'm actually going to continue to check. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and post them while I'm checking. So I've checked my let's see, I've checked Instagram, Outlook, let's check Meetup. Make sure I don't have any messages or notifications there. I don't see anything new. Okay, I think there, oh, Facebook. See if I have any messages in Facebook. I don't see any comments on my link. Okay. I don't see any notifications on Facebook. Let's check Facebook Messenger. And then if I don't see any answers here, I'm going to assume everybody has everything they need, even if the question is simple and seems ridiculous. I'm willing to answer it. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is let you know what's going on next. Okay, so I'm not seeing any messages on social media. I'm also not seeing anything on the live chat here. If it's malfunctioning, I apologize. You can send me messages and let me know that's occurred, and I'll look at solving that in the future. There are a few different options I have with going live that I can set up, so it just takes some research. So I'm working on improving this and improving it. So I think that answers all the questions for tonight. In the future, I am probably going to, I might shift the brain hacks. I don't know. Now that I'm doing this live this way, we're going to see what happens. Stay in touch on social media. I will post what's happening. Tomorrow, I will be doing the meditation live. I will possibly be moving that to Sunday, but Sunday's afternoon group for the people that are in the paid group, that meetup will also be live. So any questions you have on your phase 3, phase 4 practices, go ahead and post those, and I will address them in the same way. And then I will talk about some tips for mythology, and then I will set up a writing prompt live on YouTube, and then we'll go from there. And we'll just see how this works while we go through this process of being alone together. So I think that's it for tonight. I think that is, hopefully I've answered questions. Hopefully this has been helpful. It's a little different, not sitting across from each other, meeting in person and having dialogue, but I'm hoping we can get in the habit of dialogue here again. If you post questions in the live chat, I will answer them right there on the video. So I hope this helped. I hope everybody is staying safe and well and doing their practices to be strong through anything that happens. And until tomorrow, I hope everyone has a beautiful evening and that you enjoy your journeys.